Yeah? All right. We have two things to speak about. I don't know if we'll get to both, but if we do, we'll have a chance. Otherwise, we'll first concentrate on the Parsha of the week, and then, if we have any time, we'll touch on Parsha HaChodesh. You know that this Shabbos is Parsha HaChodesh. This is the last of the four Parshas. The Parsha of the week is Parshas Vayakhell and Pekuday. A double dose this time. I'm sure you're aware that Parshas Vayakhell and Pekuday correspond almost entirely to Parshas Truma and Tetzaveh. Truma speaks about building of the Mishkan and all the kelim of the Mishkan, all the vessels. That's when Hashem told Moshe what to make. And Parshas Vayakhell speaks about this, the same things when they were made. And similarly, Parshas Tetzaveh speaks about the tzavor, when Moshe was told what garments to make for the Kohanim. And Parshas Pekuday speaks about how the garments were made. So, the obvious question is, both of these parshas could have been included in two psukim. They made the Mishkan the way Hashem told them to make it, and they made the garments the way Hashem told them to make it. And yet, instead, the Torah goes on and describes every detail that was mentioned in the tzavor when they were commanded, how they were made. When they were made. It really is an amazing thing. You come to think of it. What's the point? We know that Rashi, much earlier, you may remember, by Eliezer Eved Avram, when Eliezer, Avram's servant, went to get Rivka for Yitzchak, there also we have the similar thing, where the Torah relates what happened to him, and then the Torah relates in detail how he told about his experiences to Psula and Lovan. And Rashi over there says, the reason it's repeated, it shows that Hashem has a special affection. He loves, so to speak, these stories even more than the Torah, than the mitzvahs that the Torah represents. So the similar thing obviously applies here. The question is, nevertheless, what is this about? What's the meaning of this repetition? And this is what I want to focus in. The reason this is important for us is that this situation where we have a commandment, then we're going to do it. This is actually what our lives are about. From beginning of the day, daybreak till sunset. You know, in Son Shechonora, the mitzvah, there's a mitzvah, you should do something, and then we do it. This is what Jewish life is about. And we see here in the Torah that the fact that it was told and was related what to do, that does not take the place of relating of when the things were done. Now we know, we discussed it many times, that when the Yidden received the Torah, they said, Na'aseh v'nishma. Na'aseh v'nishma means we will do, and then we will try to understand. Which simply the way it is translated, the way we understand it, is that when Yidden are told something, they automatically do it because they were told. If they automatically do it, then it means that nothing happens between the time that they were told and the time that they do it. It's automatic. They just follow through on what was being told. If that's the case, what's the point of repeating it? It's the same thing. Lahavdil, everybody knows what lahavdil means, right? If you give an example, a comparison between a human being and an animal, you say lahavdil because they're not in the same world, the same category. But you just want to illustrate a point. You would not say that the horse driver led his horse in that direction and the horse went. Because he leading the horse and the horse going is the same thing. The horse doesn't have its own mind. It's not. There's no accomplishment on the part of the horse. Wherever the person leads it, that's where it goes. It's not a secondary step. So if Yidden said, Na'aseh v'nishma, we will do, we will obey, and then we will understand, it sounds also the same thing, that there is no secondary thing. And if that's the case, there's no point of repeating it. We see from the Torah, from today's Parsha, that this is not true. And even though Hashem told Moshe exactly what to do, it deserves to be repeated in every detail when you need actually do it. Why is that? The reason for that is that even after that the Yidden said, Na'aseh v'nishma, we will obey, it does not mean that at that point they do not have any more bechira. They don't have, so to speak, the human choice. They still have their intellect. They still have their emotions. They still have their Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara. And every time that they approach to do something, anything, they have internally two opinions. One says do, one says don't. And they have to make a decision. When they said Na'aseh v'nishma, they did not mean to give up their choice. They did not mean to give up their human quality. That's not what Hashem wanted. What they said, what it meant was that they will make a decision on the basis of their understanding and their commitment to doing Hashem's mitzvahs, and they wish to be Hashem's people, but they have to do it. They have to fight it every way, every step of the way. In Tanya, you have learned that Yidden are superior to Malachim. Because a Malach does not have a choice, even though a Malach is very holy. But the very fact that a Yid, when he does a mitzvah, he does the mitzvah because he has to stop himself and think, to recognize Hashem's presence, because the world doesn't show it to him. He has to recognize in his own mind, he has to recognize in his emunah. He has to recognize it in his intellect. And that happens on a continuous basis. Every time we say Shema Yisrael, we close our eyes and say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, and we think about this and we say clearly Hashem Echad. There's nothing else but Hashem. And then we open our eyes and say, oh, wow, what happened over here? See a completely different world. And that happens day in, day out. And having done it once does not guarantee that we can do it in a second time. Having done it 1,000 times doesn't guarantee that we can do it 1,000 times the first time. Every time that we do it, we have to again reflect and bring out and connect to our neshama, essentially, and overcome the obstacles, the worldly obstacles, and illuminate our little world. It doesn't happen automatically. This is of such significance, we should understand, that there is no such thing as repetition in a human being. A human being is created every day fresh. When you go to sleep, you go to full rest. When you wake up, as we say in Moedei Ani Lefanecha, and then we say the brachas, it's a fresh day. And every decision that we made the day before, we have to go ahead and do it again. Refresh it. It's not going to happen all by itself. What is the value of this? What's the point of repeating it? Because it's not automatic. What's the point of fighting it through? I already did it. So for this, we have to understand the meaning of Torah mitzvahs in general, and the meaning of us being in this world. We're always challenged. Challenged. Everybody knows what the word challenge means. You know what challenge means? Yosef, what's challenged? Qu'est-ce que c'est? We always have difficulty that we have to overcome. And when we are victorious, we make it, we get through it, then we say, okay, I made it. Now that I made it, I'm finished. So what's the point of doing it again? Of being challenged again? What we have to understand is our job here is not just to prove what we are able to do. It's not just to pass a test, to prove what we are capable of doing. You're blocking someone. We have a real job to do. We have to actually transform ourselves, elevate ourselves, purify ourselves, and then purify the whole world. It's not just to prove that we can stand it and we can do it. We actually have to accomplish something. And accomplishing something means let's say if somebody is digging into the ground to find gold. How do you dig? You take a shovel and you dig. So if you dig up a full day, he says, oh, I'm able to dig. I'm able to dig. That does not bring the gold up. The next day you have to dig further until you dig all the way down to the gold. And each day, even though you dug yesterday, each day you have to bring up the same strength and the same dedication to go ahead and continue in your digging. We have a real job to do. And the job is to overcome and to break through the darkness that we ourselves have in our own mind, in our own Yetzer Hara. Our own Yetzer Hara that conceals, that blinds us and does not let us follow the truth as we perceive it ourselves in our own mind. And we have all kinds of doubts. And we have to go beyond the doubts and recognize and bring the truth into our own lives. And then we have a job to affect the whole world with it. This is what Torah Leactures is about. We have discussed it, and we learned probably elsewhere also, that the union of Torah Mitzvahs is not just that the person is doing the right thing, but it's actually changing the world. Like when you take tefillin are made from hide, from skin, from animal skin. It's a plain animal. But when you make tefillin out of it, it becomes holy. All of a sudden, it becomes something different. A Sefer Torah is also made of animal skin. But a Sefer Torah is a very holy thing. This is the pshat that we have to actually transform and affect the world. And this is what the Torah is telling us. Hashem told Moshe exactly what to do. And then the real thing happened. And the Torah is putting it over there in every detail. The real thing happened. What happened? Moshe told the Yidden to do what to do, and the Yidden went ahead and did it. That inyan that Moshe told the Yidden, and the Yidden did it, is a completely separate accomplishment than from the fact that Hashem told Moshe to do it. Because in order to do it, the Yidden had to actually overcome their own obstacles and build a Mishkan. So, coming back to ourselves as we usually do, everything we do on a daily basis as Yidden is almost copy, almost verbatim, the same thing we did the day before and the day before. We daven word for word exactly the same thing we davened yesterday. We do the same mitzvahs. Sometimes, even in learning, we're just repeating what we learned the day before. Does that mean that we're not making progress? Does that mean we're not moving? Chas v'shalom, it does not mean that. Because every time that we get up to daven, there is a little guy someplace in our foot says, what are you davening for? You're lazy, you want to sleep. Right?
No.
Why are you pointing fingers for?
Pointing to myself.
And how do we get over this guy? How do we get over it? So each one in his own way. But ultimately, when we fully recognize what we are doing, it is that we get over it by recognizing that there is a reality here, that we are Hashem, we are actually doing Hashem's mitzvahs. Hashem told Moshe, and Moshe told us, and we are doing what Hashem told us to do. And Hashem is here with us in what we're doing. That's the ultimate. At first, perhaps we're doing it because we're afraid we're going to be screamed at by Rabbi Lipsky or whatever. But ultimately, we grow out of this, and we do it because it's the right thing to do. We know that this is the thing what we want to do. That's real growth. This is not repetition. There is a story told about Rashi. Rashi, the Chumash. One of the very unique aspects of Rashi's commentary is that his form of presentation, his language, the way he presents his pirush, is extremely simple, very straight, and is the easiest pirush to learn. It's very clear. When you learn Rashi, eventually those who are familiar, who are not familiar yet will get familiar. When you learn Rashi, let's say Rashi and Gemara, you learn Rashi and Gemara, you don't even feel like you're learning Rashi. Rashi just kind of inserts a little word here, and the whole Gemara becomes clear. This is a very unique capability. So they asked Rashi, that's a story that I heard. How does he do it? How did he do it so perfectly? And Rashi answered that everything that he writes the previous day, he again re-examines the next day. What's the significance of the next day? You could re-examine it in the same day, write it, and then go over it again. The answer is, the next day, you already kind of forgot what you wrote. You start from the beginning, and you have to present this explanation again from scratch. And that's how you clean it up. This is the experience of every Yid. Every Yid, every morning, every day is a new day and a new decision. And we cannot begin to estimate, we cannot begin to evaluate the power of what this accomplishes. This accomplishes for us individually. This brings out the best and deepest qualities, the deepest koiches from our nefesh. And it also, of course, accomplishes our duties in the world. There's so much to speak about this. I want to just get to the other thing. But you could see, and particularly we see it from the Parsha, two long Parshas are repeated almost entirely without anything novel. In the Torah, where the Torah is so brief and so concise. Because this is not a repetition, it's not a copy. It's a completely new thing.
So you say you should start at a new day? Like, you could change the next day?
Yes. You have to take every day seriously and responsibly and make a concerted decision what you're going to do. I want to talk about a little bit about Pashas HaChodesh. Pashas HaChodesh, which we're going to read this Shabbos in Mitzvah. Rashi, in the beginning of Chumash, says that Pashas HaChodesh, HaChodesh Azel Lochem, this is the first mitzvah that Eden were given. Mitzvah Rishena Shin Stava B'Yisrael, the first mitzvah. And what is this mitzvah? This mitzvah is that Yidden have to set up their calendar according to the lunar month, to the moon, and that there is a way to establish the new month. We have to establish. We have to pronounce it, like we say, this is Rosh Chodesh, and that we have to also establish a sequence of months. That Nisan is the first month, Iyar is the second month, Sivan is the third month, a complete cycle of months. There's an order. That there is order in our year. That it's not just one day pushing the other day, 1 week pushing the next week, 1 month pushing the next month. There's order. That's what this mitzvah is. And this is a big mitzvah for the Bezdin. The Bezdin is to sit together and establish, today is a Chodesh, make a do of it, and so forth. And this is the first mitzvah. And Rashi says, in Breshis, right in the beginning of Breshis, that this is where the Torah should have started. The beginning of the Torah should have been in this Vayakhell Hashalach. So now, if we reflect on this and say, hey, what's going on over here? We have mitzvahs like Onoich Hashem Elokecha Asher Tzricha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. We have mitzvahs L'yilecha Elohim Acherim. You have mitzvahs, you should keep Shabbos. You have mitzvahs, tremendous mitzvahs. Shema Yisrael, all call them mitzvahs. Mitzvahs of the highest level. They could not find a more important mitzvah with which to start the Torah than the Chodesh Hazeh. What is the significance of this? How do we understand it? there is a din in Shulchan Aruch. I'll start a little bit from the side and we'll get to the point. A din in Shulchan Aruch that every person should have a set place where he davens. In the shul where he davens, he should have a place where he davens. There's even a whole discussion in Shulchan Aruch how close to the place. He doesn't have to be rigid. He have to get this place. He can daven here. He can daven here. As long as it's within 4 amas of where he davens, it's also considered his place. But a person has to have his place. In Talmud Torah, in learning Torah, there is a din that a person has to have kviyus itim la Torah. Kviyus itim, established time for Torah. Baruch Hashem, you guys over here, your whole day is kviyus itim la Torah. But even in your day, you have time when you learn this, time when you learn this. It doesn't that flow. It has to be kavua. A boss, a person who is in business, who is working, whatever, clearly he can't learn the whole day. So he says, I'll learn a half an hour, or I'll learn an hour someplace in the day. He says, absolutely, that's not good enough. He has to have a set time when he learns. Kviyasit. In other words, he's learning, and he's learning Torah, and he's learning well. And what's missing? It's not kavua in time. So what's the big deal? The main thing is the learning. So we say no, that's a mistake. There has to be dafke kaviyah, dafke exact time. What's behind this? What it means, what behind this is like this. It's going to be, I'll have to go a little bit around the bush, but I hope Mishim that will understand it. There is things that go through in a person's mind. And he thinks of them whenever he wants. As a matter of fact, it says that the neshama came down into this world. The neshama itself, the expression is neshama einot tzrichut tikun. The neshama itself does not need to be corrected, to be made better, to be perfected. The neshama is perfect the way it was before it came into this world. And since the neshama itself is perfect, therefore, when a person learns and thinks about things at the neshama level, the way he believes, there's no difficulty, because his neshama is always pure. The difficulty is to connect it to the guf, to connect it to the world, to connect it to his body. That's where the real challenge is. The real challenge is not in closing your eyes, when we close our eyes and we say Shema Yisrael. Say Shema Yisrael and we close our eyes and we all believe Hashem Echad. Yes, it's a very good thing, but that comes directly from our faith, from our belief. It's when we open our eyes and we see the world around us, that's when all of a sudden we see a different world. And we have to be able to connect that which we understood, that which we thought when we closed our eyes, to the world that we see when we open our eyes. And this is what Baruch Shem Kved Malchus Eloheim Vod is. Shema Yisrael says there is only Hashem. And then we open our eyes and we say, Baruch Shek Malchus Eloheinu Voed, which means that this same Hashem that we understood with closed eyes, He is now the Melech. He is the king of the world that we see. He rules this world. This connection, this is the real challenge. This is where the real avodah is. In other words, as long as we keep our thoughts and our avodah slightly on a ruchnistic level, we can go through without much fighting. Even the Yetzer Hara also will agree with it. The Yetzer Hara will say, "Oh, you're such a wonderful person. You learn, you daven." It is when you infringe, when you touch, when you limit His presence, and you say, "No, you're not free to do whatever you want at any time you want. You have to do things in the right place and the right time." Why? Because I say that's what the Shulchan Aruch says. In the right place and the right time. Let us say, you Bochrim, Baruch Hashem, you know you must meet Him, you learn, and you decide, listen, what's the difference when I learn? I'm going to learn till 2 o'clock in the morning. Tomorrow morning I won't be up to the Seder, but I learned 3 hours last night. It's wonderful. You have to understand that this is what the Yetzer Hara is trying to fool you. Because it says to you, you know, you're doing Baruchnius, you're very good, but you're not touching the real thing. You're not really fighting the real battle. You're not really creating your place in the world. You're out of the world. Time is not of any essence. It just flows, and I do whatever good things. But whenever it comes to my mind, I want to daven. I learn. Verbring. Makes a difference what I do, as long as they're good things. Sounds good. It's a very, very serious mistake. Because the whole point of the neshama coming in the world is to connect the neshama to the world and make it recognized. And chart, you know what chart means? Chart means map the world, map your day. Map it out. There's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end. Not that everything flows one moment into the other without any significance. So, you know, now that I'm talking about it, I just want to mention, it is very important. Don't allow yourself to be misled by the thought that if I learn an extra hour, it's okay if I don't come to the Seder on time. It's a very big mistake. And moreover, if I learn an extra hour and I come to the Seder but I'm half asleep, it's also a mistake. Because all that serves to disrupt your operation in the world. You're doing nice things and I feel good, but you don't really accomplish anything.
You don't take a couple hours.
If a person, my dear friend, listen to what I'm telling you, not what you're telling yourself. If a person will eat matzah today, is he having mitzvah? Oh, I'm eating matzah. Matzah is michal v'mamhusa. It's a holy food. Why do you want to make a fool of yourself? It's not a mitzvah. Krishma in the morning has to be said. I'm sure, you learn Krishma in time, but everybody knows that there's a man Krishma. There's a man Krishma that you have to learn Krishma every day before that Zman. So you can say Krishma with all the kavanas and with closed eyes and open eyes, however you want. But if it's past the time, you didn't do the mitzvah. We have to connect The whole union of Torah mitzvahs of Yiddishkeit is to connect what happens in our mind and in our, behind closed eyes and what happens in without open eyes. In the Seder. And it's very important to understand that our responsibility here as Yidden is to always be healthy and always be alert and be ready to do what we need to do. A person has to go to sleep on time and has to get up on time. This getting to sleep on time and getting up on time, that is more important than even what you do. Because that puts a chart that brings you into the world instead of you being in your own mind. Where do we see that? Where do we learn it from? The first mitzvah that Rashi says the Torah should have begun from what? HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem. What's HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem? HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem means that there is an order, there's a sequence. It's not just one month after the other after the other. There's an order. There's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end. That's the first mitzvah that Hashem gave us. The first mitzvah that Hashem gave us. That mitzvah, being the first mitzvah, tells us that what is the ultimate purpose of mitzvahs? What is the ultimate purpose of Torah mitzvahs, of Yiddishkeit? It is to bring, intertwine, intermix, and connect Ruchnius with Gashmius. And if you do things not in the Gashmizdike world or in the Gashmizdike limits, in the Gashmizdike form, you can be doing all very wonderful things. It's not accomplishing the purpose. It's not accomplishing the purpose for which Hashem created this world. You live in your own mind. We are not here for that. We are here we receive the Torah from Hashem. We want to live with Hashem and fulfill His mitzvahs. When we realize this principle, that we are here not to be good people, but to fulfill, to be good servants of Hashem, to bring Hashem into the world, then we can truly experience that which it says, that the whole yom, that every day, like we said before, every day and every time that one does something is always chadosh. It's always new. There is no repetition in our lives. There's no boredom. You know what boredom is? Boredom. No. There's no such thing as being just flowing. Every time this is always this new, because Hashem's command to us is always new. And we do it with the same enthusiasm as if we received it today. Many times, I'm going over a little bit the principles involved in this, and you will recognize how much this is, how true this is, how much we all suffer from this. And it's all because of this mistake. We come to ourselves and say, okay, again I'm doing the same thing. Again I'm doing the same thing. What is this all about? Where is the progress? And that is only because we lose sight, we lose recognition of what is actually going on. Hashem created the world in the very creation of the world. He made a cycle. A cycle means there is a daily cycle. And the daily cycle means there's the beginning of the day, and there's a middle, and there's the end of the day. And when the end of the day, after the end of the day, when the day comes up again, we say it's a completely new world. And we say in davening, Mechadesh betuvi b'chol yom tomid maseh bereshis. It's a new creation, a new world. In truth, this is not only what's called conceptually, or not only that we believe it, but the truth is we ourselves experience it. Every day in the morning when a person wakes up, he wakes up fresh. He wakes up fresh. A person can go to sleep not only tired, but maybe worried and all kinds of different concerns. During the night, he gets cleaned out, washed out, and he wakes up fresh. It's a new world. That's how Hashem created the world. Why is that? Because in fact, the world never gets old. And the person never gets old. Why? Because he gets recreated all the time, refreshed all the time. But in order to benefit, in order to enlist and to get this principle in our lives, we have to be recognizing this. We have to recognize the discipline of time. Yom Tov Pesach is coming up. It's a wonderful Yom Tov. Wouldn't you like it to have Pesach? It's a beautiful Yom Tov. Let's have it a few times a year. Purim, everybody would probably not mind to have it several times a year. You have it only once. It says in Chassidus that every Yom Tov that we have contributes, gives to us a different quality into our lives, adds another quality to our lives. And that has to add it for the whole year. And then when it comes the next year around, it gets refreshed. So, the message of today's talk, to summarize, from both from the Parsha, from the Sedra, and from the Achodesh Lachem, is to understand that we have to create in the discipline in our lives. We have to connect our mind and our beliefs to our world. We have to create it afresh every time. And then it is a real accomplishment. There is actually a Rashi, the Gemara says, B'chol yoim yiyo beinecha chadosh. That the Torah mitzvahs that Hashem gives us, we have to look at it every day like they are new. When you take out the tefillin in the morning and you put on tefillin, don't think of it that I did it yesterday. Reflect what tefillin are, what am I doing, what is this about, a new thing. It's a new day. It's not yesterday, it's a new day. So that's why I'm putting on tefillin again. Why am I putting on tefillin again? I already did it yesterday. Because I have to create the same thing again today. this way, with this discipline, with this approach, this is how Hashem Himself designed it for us. We stay fresh. We stay alive. We stay enthused, excited. And ultimately, when a little time passes, a month, a year passes, we look around and we see we are different people. We see that we really changed, we really accomplished, we grew. We're not the same person we were yesterday, a year ago. We don't even notice how we grow. Because we actually build ourselves, so to speak, in Hashem's world. We know what a mitzvah means. We know how to learn. We know how to daven. We know how to conduct a day's life. We know how to sit with the recheretz. And ultimately, Hashem gives us the bracha, because that's what we are here for. And the neighbor is here for everybody should be blessed with hatzlacha, begashmius, or beruchnius, and should successfully come out, as we are going to speak in Mitzvah next week in Mitzvah about Pesach, come out of his own Mitzrayim, of his own limits, and be a yid in the full sense of the word. A yid has to be happy. A yid has to be joyous. And a yid has to be accomplished. Accomplished means he has to bring out everything he's got, all his talent, everything, all his abilities, he has to bring out. We don't have to hide anything, because for everything there's a place in Hashem's world. So, time b'hatzlacha.